This is Coda Radio, episode 168 for August 24th, 2015. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week is our excellent host, who is excellently established, perhaps perfectly established on the East Coast. Why, yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed Mr. Michael Dominic. Hey there, Michael.
Oh boy, it's time to mow the lawn, Chris. I'll be back.
Yeah, just make sure you get it real loud in a gas motor with no muffler, and then stand about 5 feet out my door. And then charge me for it.
Oh, I'm definitely going to charge you.
Mr. Dominic, we have a really interesting show that came up this week. A couple of listener-submitted topics. I think one that you're going to bust wide open. We also have a massive conundrum of a situation I want to break down with you, as well as some excellent feedback. After a Friday edition of the Coda Radio Show, we are back on a Monday. The post-LinuxCon craziness.
I want you to know that I didn't sleep at all last week.
Really? It just got you all messed up, huh? Doing the show on Friday?
It was just wrong. I mean,
Yeah. I know. It's like getting irregular in your schedule. You know, it throws you for a loop. It was a really crazy week last week because we went down Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to LinuxCon, and to do anything for 3 days in a row is a lot. I don't know how anybody does that. That's crazy. But going down to Seattle, seeing all those people, just totally messes up the whole schedule for a while. But it was fun. It was good times. And we are now back on our feet, and things are moving right along. And are you ready today for episode 168?
168.
Are you? I kind of have like a whole big day ahead of me. I have lined up an amazing deal potentially on a RV trailer that I want to take on a JB Roadshow, and it's like the deal of a lifetime, and I'm going to go up there tonight and see it if it all works out. I could, next week we talk, be the proud owner.
You know, I could be doing a roadshow of myself. Is there a Linux Fest Southeast at any point?
There is Ohio Linux Fest coming up in October.
I'm not actually allowed in the state of Ohio.
Okay, yeah. This would be a big, and this is not really the topic of today's show, but once I started working for myself full time for JB, that was I guess kind of like 3 years ago. I don't really remember now. Since I did that, since I started working for myself, I've not bought anything that requires a payment. You know what I mean? Like, no vehicle, no homes, nothing. Like, because I don't want to,
Yeah, it's just a nice way to say you can't pass the credit check.
Well, no, I mean, actually, I have pretty decent credit because, I have established credit, but it's the, oh my God, what happens if it's the fear of the moment I sign on the dotted line for a monthly payment, that's when everything will fall apart, and then I won't be able to make the payment anymore. But I'm not so worried about that, and this is so it's a big, if I go up there and I get this RV, it's going to be a big moment because this will be the first thing I've ever got payments on since becoming self-employed. And so that in itself is that's a big commitment to wrap my head around. And then to have to start the process of kind of putting together a mobile studio on the cheap. It's going to be a good challenge. That's the kind of challenge I like to face, actually. So anyways, Mr. Dominic, we have much to get into today, much to discuss, and I'll update you next week on if I actually ended up landing the mobile broadcast studio. And I wondered if you wanted to talk about this topic that was sent in by D-Rock, and it's life inside Amazon, and it's particularly poignant for me because... Yes. So for those of you who are not familiar with this story, I'm going to bring Charlie Rose in because he's paid a lot more than I am, and also I'm going to bring in Nora, and I'm also, maybe while I'm at it, we'll also bring in a few others to help us explain what's going on. In fact, while we're at it, let's just have the whole CBS Morning Crew come in and tell us what's going on.
Wait a minute, is that like... I was like, wait.
You like that? We have a whole cast of characters here.
Amazon this morning is fire. The online giant is the world's biggest retailer. The market value is nearly $250 billion. Amazon has facilities in 18 states. Nearly 100,000 people work there. The New York Times is now raising questions about the company's culture.
Here, and I'll just play a moment so you guys get the backstory. We won't play the whole report.
Jody Cantor and David Streitfeld spoke with more than 100 current and former employees. Their story is the most read and emailed article this morning on the Times site. It says, quote in part, workers are encouraged to tear apart one another's ideas in meetings, toil long and late. They are held to the standards that the company boasts are unreasonably high. A former employee believes this, that Amazon is where overachievers go to feel bad about themselves.
This morning, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos is responding to the article with a letter to employees. Bezos says, quote, it claims that our intentional approach is to create a soulless, dystopian workplace.
Actually, Charlie's kind of butchering this. It says, it claims that our intentional approach is to create a soulless, dystopian workplace where no fun is had and no laughter is heard. Again, I don't recognize this Amazon.
Where no fun is had and no laughter heard. Again, I do not recognize this Amazon, and I very much hope you don't either. Jody Cantor is with us at the table.
All right, so let's stop there. So this is the report of what's going on at Amazon, is that it's extremely rough culture. The report came out that you'll see, and I guess this is supposed to underscore how brutal it is. Grown men will come out of meetings holding their eyes, crying. You've never worked at Amazon unless you've cried. Those kinds of lines were in there. About 10 employees that they're able to talk to with permission from Amazon, and of course Bezos has been responding. Now this is interesting because a couple of months ago there was a book out that kind of claimed the same thing. And I look at this story, and I see a couple of different angles. I'm kind of curious what your first reactions are, Mr. Dominic.
So, do you remember a couple weeks ago the story about Google and a number of other tech companies, but Google was kind of the marquee one, and how their aging employees, and aging, we're talking 37, 40, are finding it harder and harder to keep up with the culture because, you have kids and
responsibilities in a life that gets
you're
more
someone's
complex.
father, you're someone's father or mother, and you can't sleep at your desk, right?
I guess because when I hear this, I mean, this is kind of why I brought up on Coder Radio. There's this programmer culture out there where it's totally awesome, man, to totally work yourself to death. And
I mean, sometimes I don't know. I have a less indicting view of Amazon, I guess, than a lot of people I've heard this week. If you really have to, if you have like a marquee customer, or it's it's your launch week for your company, and it's make or break, and you guys pull the hard weekend or whatever you do,
right?
I think that's okay. It's not great, but it's okay, and it builds camaraderie, and it's a good experience for you to have at least once in your life. But if that's standard operating procedure, then that sucks.
Yeah, and so this to me seems to be pretty common, actually. And now, is it okay? So here's another way to look at this. For a certain type of personality and work type, sometimes that's very aggressive. Let's take an idea, take a writer's room. A writer's room is often kind of famous for you take an idea and then you tear it apart, and then by the end everybody emerges with something better, even though sometimes in the process some feelings are hurt. That's often there's a lot of that. That's often described as part of the creative process. If you're somebody who's not super comfortable with that, you could walk away with a pretty bad impression. But if you're somebody who happens to think that's a pretty efficient way to work, you could walk away with a very good impression. So the issue I have with stories like this is it always depends who you ask. If you ask the right person, Chris Fisher is an asshole. I'm a dick. And if you ask another person, I'm extremely...
I was that person.
Right, exactly. Right. Yes. Right, thank you. I didn't want to point fingers. And if you ask another person, I'm very generous. I could be, et cetera, whatever it might be. You're always going to get a different story depending on who you ask, because it always filters to their own personal bias. I hear this story and I hear these rumors about Amazon, and I think they're true. At the same time, I also think they sound like a very, very lean, competitive company that's got the pedal to the metal. And
I mean, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, I guess I agree with you. Are you basically saying it's different strokes for different folks?
No, I guess kind of, to a sense. I guess what I'm saying is it's different strokes for different folks, but then it put in the wrong light, it blows up. So the New York Times takes this article, and you ask the right people, gosh, that sounds pretty aggressive. That sounds pretty bad. That doesn't. But you ask another set of people, and they would give you a different spin on the exact same stories, and you'd have a completely different article. And I think part of it also comes in with the author's bent. It almost felt like when I read it, it felt like a little bit like a hit piece to me.
It feels like a hit piece to me. I don't know if I should say this, but I was, a couple months ago, I was considering doing the JOB thing, and I actually went and was invited to an Amazon recruiting event. And everybody I talked to, I mean, obviously they're picking the people who talk to you, but people seemed legitimately happy. Like, maybe it's not for everybody. I didn't think it was for me, but not for any reasons like this. didn't want to do it. It seems like a software company, right? It's a lot of work, and there's deadlines and there's pressure. But
well, what about what RJP is saying in the chat room? Sometimes being a dick is just needed to get things done. Is that what it is? Is that sometimes when you have a group of a bunch of people who think they have a really good idea, somebody has to make a decision, and sometimes somebody's going to think the decision that didn't go their way, that guy's a dick, and somebody has to be a dick. Like doesn't there have to be a Steve Jobs and a Jeff Bezos and a driver like that? Don't you need somebody like that?
Yeah, I think you do, and I don't even think it's that big. Like you need a larger than life personality. You know, coming from the startup kind of small shop space, have worked with big companies, do work with big companies. There's definitely a cultural difference in how they handle just communication in a very general way. Like a little company, someone will say, "Hey, I have this idea," and then within minutes, the group will say no or yes. Let's explore it more. Big companies call a conference call, right? They call a big meeting, and everybody discusses it, and everybody gets their 10 minutes to talk or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I know which one of those is obviously preferable to me, but I feel like this article paints Bezos as like the devil, like dance puppets dance, and Amazon as some sort of, I don't know, like sweatshop.
Middle class sweatshop, I heard it called.
Right.
Yeah. A middle class sweatshop. And I guess, boy. And the only reason, because there's a couple of things that I think have given this article some currency. I think number one, there is some paranoia cropping up about Amazon becoming like an online Walmart and maybe abusing their power. Like some people, we saw some of the book publisher deals go down, and people are like kind of looking at askance now going, what happens when you give them too much power?
Right, but you have a choice, right? Like I do not like Walmart. I don't think their practices are particularly ethical. So I choose not to buy things from Walmart.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, so what I mean though is I think the worry is starting to grow in the general public. Perhaps that's why this got some currency. And then the other thing, the reason why it got some currency with me just a little bit is maybe this isn't exactly fair to Amazon, but I think it's fair enough to a lot of company cultures out there that are really taking advantage of people who are working in their passion field. And that's why when I read some of this stuff with Amazon, I was like, I could see how you rope somebody in on something they're super passionate about, you get them excited to work for a company like Amazon, and then you drive them and drive them and drive them until they break, and then you use somebody else. I'm not saying Amazon does that, but I am saying that does happen a lot in the industry.
All right, so this is not an Amazon problem. This is a tech industry problem.
That's why I wanted to zoom out a little bit, and specifically, man, I think it's now not in some classes, but in some levels. But I think specifically, it hurts the development community the most often.
Well, developers, how can I say this politically correct? We're a whiny bunch of bitches, really. I mean, every single one has the imposter syndrome, and we're always trying to measure our e-peens against each other all the time, right? Like,
inappropriate?
Yeah, pretty much. It's really easy to, and I've seen it done, to kind of manipulate a developer, make him think it doesn't feel good, and then get him to work, 20 hours a day or something crazy like that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a pretty unbelievable story later on in the show in just a bit.
Can I just throw a theory out here? Now, I'm in no position to talk right now about this, but I think it's not sustainable, and I think you are better off treating employees well than badly, assuming that they are doing an honest day's work.
Yeah.
So, certain things that, people complain, to me, this article is nothing more than another complaint about your employer, right? Some people complain, my employer blocks Facebook. I actually think that's okay. I think they should block Facebook.
And in this case, their employer happens to be big enough that they can make headlines.
Right, and unfortunately in this case, it's the New York Times doing it's not, a nasty
right, which means every other newslet's going to talk about it.
I actually, now, if Amazon is breaking the law or doing anything criminal or wrong, they should obviously be looked at. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, man. Everybody I've ever met from Amazon, and I've met quite a few, always been happy.
I've been pretty lucky because I work in Washington, and so I've had an opportunity to work with a lot of people from Amazon, and I would say the majority of them liked it. A couple of them wanted to go back, and a couple of them were so glad to be out of there. Pretty common, right? Don't you think, from a big company?
Well, yeah. I mean, Audible. Their subsidiary Audible for audiobooks is actually out here in Newark, New Jersey. I know there were people who, when they became Amazon, did not enjoy it, but they left.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
And the people, but that's going from a startup to now a big company.
Yeah.
Like, that happens all the time. Microsoft could have bought them, and they probably would have walked out. I don't know. This feels like a hit piece to me. I don't want to like kind of poo-poo it and dismiss it, because I know a lot of people are passionate about this, but you're not forced to work there, right? And unless they're breaking the law, you don't really have anything to stand on.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what Amazon Bezos coming out and saying that doesn't sound like the Amazon I know. I mean, that's basically does nothing.
Well, and he also invited employees to, break the chain of command and directly contact him if there's an issue.
Yeah, I'd just be curious to see what other kind of public relations steps they make in the future to kind of change this, because I think this is there's momentum building here.
Yeah, I would concede that there is a broader problem with the West Coast, Silicon Valley type companies. I know Amazon's in Washington, but that whole area is now getting conquered by California hipsters. With this whole kind of like, what is it, Ender's Game thing, where we're just burning out people in their 20s, and as soon as they get married and have kids, you retire, or you start your own company, become a consultant. Business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that Amazon does something to sort of, make things nice for the employees, just as like a thing. Maybe that's, because I would like to see if Amazon sort of addresses this. It sort of sets the message. It sort of sends a message to the rest of the industry that, you know what, we're not really okay with this, and we don't want to be. We don't want our image associated with those kinds of work practices. And even if it's more show, or even if it's really just them publicly doing a better job displaying what they do now, it could help send a message to other companies in Silicon Valley on the West that this isn't acceptable.
I would even temper that a little, mentioning the Google article, because I was actually recently up in their office in Chelsea, and I've never seen people who, one, had better food, and were happy. Like, honestly, I just hung around. I was like, yeah, you guys are feeding me. Like, they had mussels and clams for lunch. I was like, you bastards. So I don't know. Really, I think it's fine. You work where you want to work.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to share their thoughts, or maybe if they have any thoughts from experience, they can email us, coderradio@jupiterbroadcasting.com, or go to the Jupiter Broadcasting page and send us in a contact form right there on there. You just choose Coder Radio from the drop-down, and anything in this general subject, too. You don't have to be an Amazon employee. Anything in that general subject would be interesting to hear your insights on. I want to talk about our next story, which is actually eerily similar in some ways, about like
this is crazy.
Yeah. But first, let me tell you about our friends over at Linux Academy, sponsors of the Coder Radio program. Linux Academy is a great resource if you want to take your skills up to the next level. They have step-by-step video courses and downloadable comprehensive study guides, and this is a really nice feature because you get this. This is something you can go back to as well, right? Couldn't you? You can do it. You can use it for reference down the road. I mean, it's not just a matter of being able to take the material and listen offline while you're commuting or in the shower or something like that. It's also about having resources down the road for yourself. I find that to be exceptional. And the nice thing about Linux Academy is it's built by enthusiasts who truly understand this technology and all the different platforms that they're teaching you. They have over 1,700 self-paced courses now, scenario-based labs, and they have just released their new Linux Foundation Certified System Administration's prep course. How about that? That's going to be coming up soon. On October 15th. Wow. I think that's going to be the biggest thing they've ever done. They are really cranking things out, and they really understand the subject material. That's why they make the difference. It's not just a feature. It's not just a check on an online learning platform. It is the platform. And they have virtual servers that match whatever distro you've chosen, 7+ distros. They'll spin up the virtual machine on demand, and it matches that distro, and it's really nice if you're doing some AWS training, because then you don't have that surprise AWS bill. I trust me. I learned that one the hard way on a visa, and it was an expensive lesson learned. And I like the other nice thing about it, of course, is it's just integrated with the courseware. I don't have to go off and do it separately on my own. And then you'll do those scenario-based labs. So when you actually go work with this technology, whatever it might be, OpenStack or Amazon Web Services or anything in the Red Hat stack or PHP, when you go to work with it, you'll actually done something in production. With these scenario-based labs, you've actually deployed it from beginning to end, and that's very, very valuable. Also, if you're a more advanced Linux Academy user, go make sure you're taking advantage of profiles. There's a pretty active community over there now, and a lot of them are JB members, so why not catch up? And you can take advantage of the new profile feature they rolled out a couple of months ago to kind of give yourself a little bit of awesome standout. New features are rolling out all the time over at Linux Academy. That's why your subscription really matters and continues to get even more valuable. Even if you've signed up when we first started talking about Linux Academy, it's gotten more valuable as we have gone on. So go to linuxacademy.com/coders and support the Coder Radio program and get the Linux Academy discount. And a really big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Okay, so get this. This is kind of unbelievable. It was submitted to Reddit. It was submitted to our show, and I have to read this to you, and then maybe we can figure out what to do for this guy, and I'll send him back an answer. So, comes in from a CSE engineer. He says, 2 employers ago, I encouraged my COO my chief operating officer to pitch a hybrid mobile application. We sold a decent-sized idea to a local customer, and I estimated, project planned, and began development. In September, so that happened in August of 2014. In September of 2014, I found a new job with a different local tech company. I tidied up the application's files the best I could and left dev notes on how to wrap up the project. An open invitation to contact me if they had any follow-up questions, and as a small family company, knowing that I had a wedding coming up, they offered to take our photos of our wedding at no additional cost as a parting gift. We offered to pay, and they said, no. And it's just, we'll do it for free. We're happy to do it. So then, a special request came in October 2014. So that was in September. Now we're in October. They're having issues with the project, which he hasn't looked at since he left, and want me to come in for a few days to help it get off the ground again. I volunteer to get the main dev up to speed, and I take 2 days off work to actively code with him and show him the ins and outs. For the next 2 months, they continue to have issues, so I contribute remotely at no cost to the project, troubleshooting with the dev that is building out the services that will communicate with the JS and HTML front ends. Now, flash forward to today, 2015, wash, rinse, and repeat. Them, the old employer. We really need this completed. Here's a whole bunch of small changes we would like. Me. Okay, I've knocked out these small changes. Any remaining issues you have that can be done by your in-house dev, so you should be set. The stuff isn't hard, and I've briefed him on how to make changes multiple times now. Them. Here are some more small changes. Please complete them ASAP. Client is threatening. They want a full refund due to timeline. Me. Okay, I've knocked out all of these changes. Please consult your in-house dev if you need anything else done. Can I have my wedding photos? It's been 6 months. Them. Only if you sign this legally binding document that the project meets all of the initial requirements, is bug-free, and if it's not, then you will continue to dev until it is. At my freelance rate, the amount of time I've put into the help these nearly triples the original cost of the wedding photos. Even at their in-house rate, the value of my time is slightly greater than the value of the service. I get that they want this project put to bed, but it's looking like an additional 20 hours of dev time remaining, 3 or 4 meetings, and they're over 140 miles away, and communicated directly with the client to explain the circumstances and delay, so he has to communicate directly to the client too. The project is 100% at an easy place to finish, and their in-house dev is capable of doing it. I've offered to fill any knowledge gaps, but they lack the resources or time for that, and they want me to bring the project to completion. I've even offered to pay the photos outright, and they don't want to hear it. Wow! What a situation. Mr. Dominic, does that just make you cringe or what?
It makes no sense. And let me tell you why it makes no sense. No development shop that is sane and has been in business for more than 30 days would have any contract that guarantees a delivery date. Ever. Because you will never, your estimates are always not great. Sometimes you're under, sometimes you're over. And to guarantee a date means you've breached the contract, means they could sue you. So you don't guarantee a date, you make it very difficult for the client to come after you. So the client can threaten all day long. They can hire a lawyer. They can file a lawsuit. They're not going to win. So I don't really understand why this would ever happen. I don't know what decent-sized deal mean. It's all relative to everybody, but this doesn't sound like that big of a deal to me.
I would say don't sign the document. Don't sign.
No, obviously not. But my concern is less with him. He should just, I don't even. He made a big mistake by giving them his wedding photos.
Yeah, well, he had them take it.
Yeah.
That's part of their biz.
Something is super wrong here in terms of, presumably he's working for some sort of development shop.
Yeah, and
they are they've never had a deadline slip before.
It sounds like too. Well, I think he kind of pitched them to kind of get into it. There's like a first thing for them, and so then they hire this new dev, and I'm betting this guy isn't cutting it. That's why they keep going back to.
All right. Well, but I mean, I've seen thousands of development contracts, and none of them say this will be delivered by January 15th at 3 p.m. or that's a breach.
But it could be one of those things where like they said, oh yeah, we'll have it to you in October. Because that's when they called him back in to kind of like do some last minute fix it up and get it going again. And I'm just wondering, so maybe they said, okay, we'll have it to you around October, but now it's almost September 2015. I bet the client's getting pissed.
They could be pissed all they want, right?
Oh yeah.
It doesn't really matter. Honestly, it's going to come down to the contract. If let's just say, for example, the dev shop delivered half of the scope of work, right? And the client accepted half of it, even though it's been a year, guess what? They're not entitled to a refund.
Yeah. What if since he's a kind of hard spot and wants his wedding photos, what if he kind of flipped it on him and said, all right, I will sign a contract for like 5 hours of work and the photos are prerequisite up front or something like that. Like I'll do 10 hours of work, but the photos are prerequisite to any work happening. He can't work for free anymore. That's ridiculous. And he's got to get the photos.
No, there's something much more dysfunctional about this company than even like negotiating with them.
Yeah.
They're supposedly in this business of software development, and they have no idea how to, because you're building something from nothing. Your estimate may or may not be correct. Your client could be a psycho, and you have very little ability to vet them. So you don't have a contract that makes it. Yeah, it seems crazy.
I think, and part of his first mistake was entering without any kind of arrangement, unfortunately.
Yeah, he shouldn't have done anything.
Yeah. Yeah, he was trying to be a good guy, ex-employee, which we all have done, right? But, yeah, that kind of backfired.
Yeah, I've gotten into that trap too, but, I'm looking at it from the perspective of the guy who owns the shop. Like, even if the shop is, like, totally insolvent and going out of business, right? That in itself protects him from the client. Because you can sue the company that has no money all day long.
Yeah, I agree with that in Vancouver. There's pretty much no arrangement here that's going to work for him.
Right, no one's going to win. Because either this person's so petty that they won't accept the work, or this shop is so incompetent that they shouldn't be in that business, and they somehow, whatever their main business is, don't have enough money just to settle with the client and get the client to go away. This just seems like a really dysfunctional situation.
He's been trying to raise awareness and get it. He's posted on Reddit. He emailed us. I hope we get a follow up because I'm curious to see what happens. Maybe somebody will see it now that it's on Reddit, and maybe something will happen. But it's a pretty crazy situation. Hey, Mr. Dominic, we have some really good news from a longtime viewer of the show, and that's going to pick things right up. So first, let me tell you about DigitalOcean. This is picking me right up. I love DigitalOcean. You know why I love DigitalOcean? My infrastructure on demand. That's what I call it now. Sure, you could claim Mr. Dominic told me about it, but now I pretend like I built DigitalOcean. I've got an account over at DigitalOcean with like 3 active droplets and a 4th droplet we use for testing, and it's crazy straightforward on the pricing. It's $5 a month, and that's it for the entire month. $5 for 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, 1 CPU, and a terabyte of infrastructure on demand. Isn't that crazy? It's all Linux powered. They're using KVM for the virtualization platform. Incredible Docker support, one-click application deployment. They really are dedicated to making it the most intuitive and easy way for you to spin up your own cloud server. And if you can get started in less than 55 seconds, and the pricing's only $5 a month, it's worth just trying it to experiment with something, isn't it? I really love the interface at DigitalOcean. They have one of the best ever. And it makes it very intuitive to set things up, to deploy applications. And the fact that they're all SSDs throughout the entire infrastructure means it's super fast. And their interface can be replicated with their API. So you take that functionality and you just take it even a step further. And the really great part is, over at DigitalOcean, go to their community section and take a look at some of the projects that are built. First thing you'll see is this is their really good documentation. They have technical staff that edit these. They pay folks for their contribution. You can look more into that. And then go over to their project section and look at some of the apps that you get to take advantage of just as a DigitalOcean customer, because the API is so rich. People are creating these apps all around it. Let's take a look at Swimmer. This is a really good one. Swimmer is a full-featured open source Android client. How cool is that? And you can go visit the project, and I'll open up another tab, and I'll go back to their main projects. It's right up here on GitHub. And it's an unofficial application for the users of DigitalOcean who want to manage their droplet snapshots and images from an Android device, and they want to do it with an open source application, so you have a little more peace of mind. You can manage your SSH keys, create, update, and destroy your droplets SSH keys. You can manage the domains, the records for the domains. You can create multiple snapshots. You can reboot the machine, shut them down, reset passwords, resize them, enable or disable backups, rename or even destroy a droplet from your phone because of DigitalOcean's API. And so that API rides on top of an incredible platform of Linux and SSD servers, and they have data centers in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, London, and Germany. So you can pick a great location so it's fast as heck. And if you use our promo code CODERDIGITAL, you'll get a $10 credit. You can try out that $5 rig 2 months for free. They have a great community section over here. Look at this, how to install Mailpile on Ubuntu 14.04. Love that one. So many good community tutorials, projects, and questions. Go over to DigitalOcean.com right now and use the promo code CODERDIGITAL and try them out. Over 500,000 developers have deployed to DigitalOcean's cloud. And you can too. We use it as our on-demand infrastructure. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code CODERDIGITAL. And a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Okay, I was very, very happy about this next email. It came in from PT Dave, a longtime viewer of the show. And he writes, hey guys, I wanted to share my kind of success story. So I've been programming for close to 15 years now, but not professionally. I do not have a college degree, and I am completely self-taught. I've been working in IT since I got a job out of high school, and I work at the high school I graduated from now. I was approached about writing a web platform to do what an Access database has been handling, and finally I have it finished after writing different versions. The first one he wrote was in ASP.NET, then he wrote one in PHP, then he wrote one in Dart, and now he's finally written one in Go. Go being the best of them, he says. My business partner and I now have a product that is being purchased by school districts on a yearly basis and charges per student. Being that my software takes an awful Word document the state produced that they are required to keep track of and turns it into a web interface, I'd say it's a huge market. But I wanted to tell folks who are passionate about wanting to get into programming to stick with it. And regardless of your educational training, you can achieve it if you really want it. PT Dave. Isn't that nice? A go make you feel good kind of story there, Mr. Dominic? Okay.
I love it.
I like that PT Dave. He's real great. And then Robert writes in with something that might blow your freaking mind. It's out of this world. It's called Meteor. He says, hey guys, I think you should take a look at Meteor. It works via WebSockets, and it makes it easy to make an isomorphic app in minutes. It changes the fundamental way you think about development, and they have an interesting way of using a local MongoDB with the server. It's really cool.
I'm sorry, I heard MongoDB.
Yeah, that is, I was almost going to cut that part out of the email, but I thought in full disclosure, I should probably leave it in there. So in the show notes, I'm going to link to a so-so YouTube video that describes Meteor in more detail, but they say in their tagline, build apps that are a delight to use faster than you ever thought possible. And
Faster than a speeding bullet.
Yeah. Meteor is a complete open source platform for building web apps and mobile apps in pure JavaScript with a delightful experience. It's fast and fun development, they say. Accomplish 10 lines what would otherwise take 1,000, thanks to reactive programming model that extends all the way from the database to the user's screen.
Ugh.
Aw, come on, don't hate already. It looks really great, don't you think?
Everything I hate in one thing. It's like JavaScript, reactive programming, MongoDB. Ugh, disgusting.
Meteor is a JavaScript app platform offering a complete full-stack framework for delivering web apps and mobile apps entirely in JavaScript. Meteor radically simplifies the development process for reactive app development. Users expect more of their apps than ever before. Meteor can deliver on those expectations quickly and effectively while providing a delightful integrated developer experience. Not impressed, huh?
No, I'm trying very hard to buy into the whole reactive thing right now, and I really don't like it.
I'm kind of impressed. There's already a couple apps out there. But all right. I'm fine. I thought maybe I'd get you interested.
No.
Nothing. You just smack faster than a Python script. Well, okay, that's fair, JB Hawkatruth. That's fair. Good apps. Well, okay. I also don't. Geez, you guys are all a bunch of skeptical Nancys here. I don't see any. Okay, I don't see a lot of good apps either. I see some apps, but I don't see a lot. Maybe if yeah. Telescope. How about Telescope? Is that a thing? Yeah. Yeah, there you go. See, look at that. Telescope. The easiest way to launch your community, written in Meteor. Pow, Mr. Dominic. Now what you got? Now, see, I found an app. So, boom. That's what you got. All right, fine. I thought we'd get a couple of minutes of good discussion out of that, but that's fine. I see.
I'm on the angular side of the street.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. All right.
Yeah.
Now, when you got on the show today, you said, did you see the most important story in the subreddit this week? The most important story, and it regards magic.
Chris, I regret to inform you that I and many other developers will be filing bankruptcy.
What? Why?
Well, a company called Gigster at trygigster.com can within 10 minutes get you a fixed bid for your app or web development project that they will guarantee, i.e., they will pay any overruns.
So trygigster.com. Let's see. I'm going to go check it out right now. Let's go take a look here. Who are we? Success story. Start a project. I'm going to start a project. Okay, I got a spinning wheel right now. This is, okay, sign our non-disclosure agreement. The confidential of your project is important to us. By clicking accept, you both of you and your company and Gigster are agreeing to terms of an NDA to protect all parties. So they make you get the first screen as an NDA out of the gate. Have you seen this?
Yeah. Meaning, I wonder if that NDA says if you have a bad experience, you can't talk about it. Oh, no.
I'm reading it right now, actually. Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
Well, that's one way to help your development shop, that's for sure.
Wow.
Sue anybody who wants to, say anything bad about you. So, their pitch is that they're going to get you a fixed bid price with people who supposedly work at Google, Oracle, Microsoft, all those kind of places. It's unclear what that means. And that these people are doing these projects in their spare time.
Oh, do you think that's how they're able to do it?
No, I don't think it's necessarily. I don't think anyone who's a full-time W-2 employee at Google is using Gigster to get app projects in their spare time.
All right, so I'm going to build the LCARS 1.0 interface for around $10,000 in 1 week on Android.
Okay.
Now I have to create an account. Now I'm starting to lose motivation. But this is my last step. Assuming I would chat with Gigster.
Yeah. So I've been through the process. You chat with them, and now what's interesting is their bids aren't insanely low.
They're based out of San Francisco. It looks like. Well, that's where their office is.
But they're free, so they're hiring developers as contracting. I don't know why you would want to do this.
This reminds me a little bit of 99 Designs.
Right.
So they say they have 800 and counting, both in California and across the United States. With so many Gigsters in our town pool, we'll probably have some. So they're making it sound like they're all in the U.S.
They are. They're going out of their way to avoid offshoring, or at least to avoid the appearance of offshoring. What's really interesting to me is that they very openly admit that they're VC funded, so they're just going to cover any overages on the bid.
Huh. Wow.
That's their business model. We're just going to eat the overage.
Oh, yeah, they are just kind of boasting it here. Like they have, they have been Greylock Partners, Y Combinator, and Bloomberg Beta. So,
in fact, there was a good Y Combinator, or Hacker News, rather, post where they actually got in and started replying to people. And it's so obvious that their tactic is we're going to be cheaper compared to most U.S. shops because I couldn't do a project for you without, going through a discovery. Some sort of documentation phase, right? Figuring out what you need. So they're just going to gamble. They're going to throw out a bid, relatively competitive, probably very competitive, actually pretty low. And if it goes over, well, they have all that VC money to spend.
Wow. That's going to be hard to compete with.
I don't think it is at all, actually.
Every platform and language. We have expertise across the board, including all mobile platforms, iOS, watchOS, and Android. That's all mobile platforms, apparently. Web and backend, by the way. We're masters of APIs and toolkits, too. Wow. So we'll start with a brief but detailed discussion so that we understand your vision for the product, gather requirements, and properly scope out your project pricing and timeline. Then,
the discussion's a chat, by the way, just letting you know.
Right, of course. Then we assign a dedicated project manager to manage your team, manage your progress, and manage your deadlines. We build everything according to the best-in-class software development principles, the same ones found at the top tech companies we sourced our talent from. Really. Then they design integration. If you already have designs, it's easy for us to apply them. We also happily work with our design agency, or if you want to do design, we can help. Then they do progressive payment. Payment is conducted through the site and aligned with the progress of your project. After initial deposit, you pay installments as work is completed, according to predetermined milestones. And satisfaction is guaranteed. You'll never pay for overages, and our work is guaranteed. If you're not happy, we'll fix it until you are.
Right.
We'll even monitor your product after it's completed and provide ongoing maintenance. What does that mean? Does that mean analytics? What does that mean?
I'm sure they're integrating Google Analytics, but the ongoing maintenance is interesting. So basically, they're absorbing the costs, right? They're absorbing most of the risk of the project, other than your actual bid cost. So let's say you bid $20,000 on an app project. You are pretty secure on not paying more than that for them. The question is, what are you getting out? You know, because one thing they do on their site is they list Yahoo Weather as one of their developers' apps, which is really shady. So instead of listing the apps you've done, you're listing the apps that your developers who work for you or work with you have previously worked on, which is something I might actually consider, because that's pretty sneaky. Like,
yeah, it is pretty sneaky. That's clever, isn't it?
I can feel the NDAs flying, but
Yeah.
not the NDAs, the C&Ds flying.
So I see the page. So yeah, so they are bragging about how long it took to do these, the number of people that were involved in the development, and the OSs it runs on, even though they didn't develop these apps.
Yep.
This is really slick. This is the slickest thing I have ever seen somebody do. This is so slick. So it basically makes it look like they have a broad range of existing applications they've developed.
And full disclosure, I did reach out to them and did invite them to discuss it with us. They were not interested. I even said I would keep my mouth shut and actually try it, like do a project for them and see how it works. They're not particularly interested in working with traditional shops either, which is interesting. It feels very Uber-like to me. They want to basically commoditize the labor here.
Yeah, JB Hawkins says, I've played this game. This is absurd. I'm sure they have a laundry list of exclusions that push the cost back onto their customers.
Of course, and I'm sure that NDA says if you're unhappy and you do something like post it to Yelp or Twitter or whatever, and it hurts them, that they will actually be able to force you to take it down.
And I wonder if because they're anything that's sometimes VC funded and Y Combinator backed kind of gets an easy pass in the mainstream tech press.
Well, what's really interesting is if you're a guy who has, let's say, 15 grand and you want to try doing an app, that's already fairly low end, and you want to try doing it, maybe you would do Gigster, right? Like, if they can get it done. But this is not like hiring a shop.
So, actually, to be honest with you, I could see this working well for a lot of companies that don't have a lot of money, that need a fairly straightforward app done, that probably use a lot of built-in OS functionality anyways, and, geez, you have them use something like Meteor, and I'm probably ready to go in 2 hours.
Well, although, you bastard. Are they, are they going to be around? Because so they're VC funded, which is great because they can absorb all the costs, right? Most dev shops run at pretty cash hand to mouth.
Right.
What happens if the VCs don't do another round? Do they pivot to being a traditional shop where, we're sorry, you do have to pay for overages? Is it sufficient to have just a chat relationship with your account rep? I would definitely say no. And is this... I'm trying to picture, are the clients you're going to want to try to pick up going to actually be going to Gigster?
I think they could be. Yeah.
I don't see it. I really don't. It just feels a little too...
Not today, but I think eventually. Yeah, I think they could.
I don't know, man. It feels like this is another Uber of X to me.
Yeah, maybe. It's kind of... I don't know.
At its core, what is this company? They are a dev shop that is saving costs on account management by not having that personal relationship, not having any of the travel.
And they must be standardizing development practices, right?
Of course. They probably have a bunch of pre-written modules.
Yeah.
And, okay, they have a bunch of VC cash, and they're willing to bid aggressively and guarantee overages.
I think JB Hawk has probably got it. He says these guys are targeting VC-based startups. That's what they're like, VC vultures. Is what they are. They're vampiring off of other VC-funded groups that they need like a website as their core product, and so these guys will bang out a website for them.
Actually, that's probably exactly what they are, right? They are. They're probably going to do whatever, your beta, your POC to get you to be able to look for funding. But you're still going to need to hire a traditional shop or your own team at the end of the day. Because I just can't. What's really interesting is that they contract out design, because design tends to be the more touchy-feely part of the whole process, right?
Yeah, and the part that you can go back and forth on a million times.
And the part that personal relationship tends to matter a lot, right?
Yeah, maybe even in-person meetings.
Yeah. I don't know.
Try Gigster.com if you guys want to check it out. Try Gigster.
If you want to, I would encourage, try it out.
They list 51 active projects right now. So...
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
But, one, how do they count a project? Two, who cares?
Well, yeah, it's like, what does that really mean? Yeah.
What does that mean? Is it, you came for an iOS app, a web app, and an Android app, so is that 3 projects?
Yeah, I don't know for sure, to tell you the truth. But did you find that over the weekend? Where did you come across this?
I came across it last week, and I was looking at it, and I really wanted to give them a shot. I tried to reach out.
Yeah. It was nice of you. It was nice of you, good guy Mike. Well,
I didn't get the warmest of receptions, which is not shocking.
Yeah, it's unfortunate though, isn't it?
But and to be fair, they just ignored me. That was their reception. They just spam.
Yeah.
I think
it's all right.
I don't know why you would do this as a client who has any money, at all. But okay.
So I want to talk about something real quick before we run out of here, just because I like to mention this from time to time on the show, and to play a clip just to kind of drive the point home. I'm gonna. This is from CoreOS. This clip. It was from LinuxCon I went to last week. And Mike, when we first started talking about containers and Docker under Linux, CoreOS didn't exist. None of this stuff existed, and now some people are talking about how containers may eventually kind of make Linux a little less relevant. I'll play this.
And finally, we think containers, feel pretty strongly that containers are the right way to think about deploying software, and we want them to be ubiquitous. So we want the standard to be as agnostic to platform, to OS and architecture as possible. At CoreOS, we're very much focused on Linux, but we think that application containers can be defined in a sufficiently portable way, so that there's no reason they can't be used on other operating systems.
Everything at LinuxCon, well, it was also called ContainerCon. It was called LinuxCon ContainerCon 2015, and it was all about Docker and containers. The whole thing, majority of the talks, the majority of the booths, everything was about containers. It is blowing up, Mr. Dominic. The Docker stuff is huge. So we just put out episode, what was it? What was the episode we just put out of Linux Action Show? We just went down to LinuxCon, and we captured some of that and some of the debate around Docker and all that kind of stuff. It's basically got the whole LinuxCon experience in episode 379 of the Linux Action Show, if you guys want to check it out. Mr. Dominic, is there anything else we want to cover this week?
No, let's just bounce out of here.
All right, Mr. Dominic. Well, then why don't we do this? Go say hi to me on Twitter. @ChrisLAS, that's my handle. Are you on there, Mr. Dominic?
At Jumanuka.
Holy smokes. You can also follow the network at Jupiter Signal. Hey, don't forget Coda Radio's live. Join us on a Monday over jblive.tv. We do this show at noon. That's 3 p.m. Eastern. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get that converted to your local time zone. And don't forget, we also want your emails. More feedback, please. Go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact and choose Coda Radio from the drop-down, or go to codaradio.reddit.com. All right, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in this week's episode of Coda Radio, and we'll see you right back here next week.